Alrighty, so here we are on lesson 9, writing addition and subtraction expressions. So make sure you're on the very first page of your note package. We're kind of going back and forth a little bit. But before we get started, I want to talk about some key words that we're going to be seeing for addition and subtraction. And we do have these up on our posters in the room, but I want to make sure you have them in your notes. So remember that the answer to an addition problem is called the sum, and the answer to a subtraction problem is called the difference. Alright, and when we see these two words, we are going to use parentheses. So write a note, use, and then put the parentheses for both of these. Alright, so if we look at example 1, it says create a bar diagram. We're not going to do that, but we're just going to show 3 plus 5. So this is what we're going to start doing. We're going to take the words and we're going to write the expressions just using numbers and signs. So this would just be 3 plus 5. Right? The next thing says, how would this look if you were asked to show 5 plus 3? That would just be the other way, 5 plus 3. And then it asks, are these two expressions equivalent? We would say yes. We know that they both equal 8. And that would be using the commutative property. Alright. Example 2 says, how can we show a number increased by 2? So whenever it just says a number, you get to pick a letter. So we're going to pick a variable. Right? Most people tend to just use X. You can use whatever letter you want. I'll use Y. So a number increased by 2 would be Y, any number, plus 2. Okay, then we're not going to use model. We're going to look down at example 3. It says write an expression to show the sum of M and K. So there we have that key word sum, which means we need parentheses, and on the inside we are going to put M plus K. Alright. Go ahead and flip over to the next page where it says, how can we show 10 minus 6? So we're not going to draw a bar diagram, but we're just going to write it using symbols. So this would just be 10 minus 6. And then they ask, could we also use 6 minus 10? And we would say no, because we know that the commutative property doesn't work for subtraction. And we proved that in the last topic that we did. Right, so you need to pay attention to the order when you're reading these sentences. Okay? And we see that here in example 5, where it says, how can we write an expression to show 3 less than a number? When you see the words less than, I'm going to do this in red, that means that you are switching the order. Alright, so if we start with a real number example, something like 3 less than 7, if I'm asking you what is 3 less than 7, you would write 7 minus 3. And you would get 4. So if we were going to use a variable, then we want 3 less than a number, so some number, we'd have x minus 3. So again, when you see that word less than, when you see that word less than, that means that you are going to switch the order. Okay? Example 6 here. Says, how would we write an expression to show the number C being subtracted from the sum of A and B? So again, now we have this term subtracted from. That also means to switch the order. Alright, so it says to start by writing an expression for the sum of A and B. And we know that this would be in parentheses because it says the sum and BA plus B. And now we're going to show C being subtracted from that sum. So we have parentheses A plus B and then minus C on the outside. If we go back and reread what they said originally, we show that the number C down here is being subtracted from the sum of A and B. Alright, go ahead and flip over to the next page. Example 7 says write an expression to show the number C minus the sum of A and B. So when we just see that word minus, that means that we just keep it in the same order that it is. So it'd be C minus, and then the sum, which means parentheses, and on the inside A plus B. Alright? And then it says, why are the parentheses necessary in this example and not in the others? If we go down and look below this, and we're going to replace the variables with numbers. So say for C we have 5 minus parentheses 1 plus 2. If we did order of operations, we'd have to do the parentheses first, so 5 minus 3, and that will equal 2. If we don't have parentheses though, we'd have 5 minus 1 plus 2. So then we just work from left to right, so we'd have 4 plus 2, which equals 6. So that is why we have to have the parentheses, because if we don't, then that has a different meaning. That's a totally different question. Right? A few more here. Number 1 says write an expression to show the sum of 7 and 1.5. So again, we need those parentheses, and it would be 7 plus 1.5. Number 2 says write 2 expressions to show W increased by 4. So increased means to add, so we could have W plus 4, or because we know the commutative property works for addition, we could also have 4 plus W. Alright, number 3 says to write an expression to show the sum of A, B, and C. So we start our parentheses, we'd have A plus B plus C, and then close our parentheses. And then number 4 says to write an expression and a model showing 3 less than P. So again, we have that phrase less than here, which means we need to switch the order. So that means we would have P minus 3. Alright, on the next page, I want you to try numbers 5, 6, and 7 on your own. Alright, go back and look into your notes to help you think about those key words. And don't leave them blank. Even if you're not quite sure, just put something down on the paper and we will go over them in class tomorrow.